everybody, and welcome to today's From Boxes to Butterflies. It's going to be a fun chat today. I'm really looking forward to this one. As I get started, though, I want to kind of touch base on a couple of things, some of the normal announcement kind of deals. First off, we're closing out Mental Health Awareness Month. And so one of the things I've always tried to do is make sure that everybody's kind of thinking about those around them, checking in on people, seeing how they're doing, because so many of us can walk around with a smile on our face and nobody realizes that it's a mask. I actually posted a couple days ago, I reposted something somebody else did, and it's a post that's gone crazy because it's two guys at a soccer game. They keep showing up, and one guy looks like he's having problems. The other one is always cheerful. And I'll let you, if you get a chance, you need to watch it and see what actually happens. Check on people, see how they're doing. That's why I talk about my dear sis Danielle. There was a medical emergency in the family with her husband. And let's face it, when things happen in the family and you're trying to make it through, a lot of people are there at the beginning, but then over time, you kind of just like, you remember them, but do you check in on them? Do you at least check in to say, how's it going? Is there anything you want to talk about? What can I do? So check in on those around you. I always love bringing up my sis, Constance Leland, the publicity queen, publicity maven, however you want to put it. She has so many ways of leveling up people: education, publicity, TV, radio. She's one of my sponsors, and I just want to put it out there that if you are looking, especially with publicity, and you want to get into some of those premium magazines, pay to play, she has the ability to get into many of those at a discount. I mean, she's, if anything else, she's the queen of discounts too. So if you're looking to do that, I mean, I'll show you some of the ones that she's done for me because I worked with her on it. Because of the discount, I ended up in 6 magazines. It was so amazing to see what happened. With CJ, touch base with her. When you've got something that you're ready to promote, you're ready to go, she is there to help you level up. And then I always like to kind of toss out the Hounds of Business community, because we're both a part of that. A place where there are so many people who are not only just focused on business, but they come together as a community. And especially as CJ always says, and I love this, collaboration over competition. That's what it's all about. So I like to also put that bug in about the Hounds. I comment about my writing as an author for 2 things. I mean, I do have those solo books that are on the bottom. Right now, the book that's on the right, Moving Beyond Boxes, The Journey to Self-Discovery, that anthology, we are getting ready to wrap it up, and it will go live on the 7th of June. So in just over a week, the amazing authors in this book who talk about what it means to move beyond the boxes that they'd been held back in for so long, those stories come to life. And I know there's so many people out there who they've been waiting for a story like this. They're coming. And as well, I bring this up because we have the previous book, which was Beyond Boundaries, Thriving in Life's Gray Zone. That book, that anthology, we're doing something a little bit different. CJ is set it up so it'll be in 40,000 distribution channels. It's going to be in bookstores. Not many anthologies are in the bookstore. So this is going to be a lot of fun when this happens. There's a group of us who are going to San Diego at the end of June for a book signing in a Barnes and Noble. It's gonna be an event. Let's just put it that way. There's a lot of things that are in the planning session right now, and on top of that, with CJ's book, a portion of the purchase will help plant trees in Madagascar and provide jobs to farmers. Also, it's there to help with the SDGs. I think she had it down as it connected with 5 SDGs. Then I have not yet selected for my book what is going to happen, but it will be the same thing. I've got a couple of organizations that I'm looking at who will get a portion of the proceeds for moving beyond boxes. And I'm excited because I'm gonna have a chat with one of the people I'm looking at on Friday. So what we look at is giving back to our communities. But now I am excited to bring up my guest today. I've known her for probably just over a year. And I was very specific about picking the title for this because we're both veterans. And so I'm just going to bring her up. How's it going, Jamie?
Hey, so glad to do this.
Oh, I've been excited to get you on because it's like we've talked, and with any luck,
Kindred
over the
spirits.
next month we'll cross paths in real life once or twice.
Hopefully. I'm flying actually into Portland this weekend.
Yeah, it's at the moment
It's a quick one though. Yeah.
it's partly sunny right now, but it's
Fingers
nice.
crossed.
And then I'll be flying into probably Burbank and then be down in Southern Cal for a few days at the end of the month when I go to San Diego. So
Mm. Seeing family,
exciting.
seeing family. That's important.
Yeah, and that
We'll
is
catch
part of
we'll
it.
catch each other at the airports, doing a wave and a drive by.
Yeah, it's all fun. But with you, I want to get everybody to get to know you a little bit, what you do, who you are, and what's gotten you to kind of where we're at now.
Oh, what's gotten me here? Oh my gosh, you don't got
It's
that kind of time.
no, well, it's
Um,
like whatever you
but
want to
yeah,
say.
getting to know me, I've kind of been behind the scenes, haven't I? Yeah, it's time. It's time to come out of the woodworks. Um, I have had a quite a long, treacherous road to say the least. I have been out of the military for like over 20 years, but I've learned a lot. Like I've learned a lot through my road. And what I don't want is other veterans to take as long of a path as I did to get to where I'm at now. So my hope is to start to like build that platform and that voice, so to speak, build that confidence so that others kind of like learn through my story and talking about my story and um, one veteran at a time so that they don't have to go through what I went through. Even like being able to reach out to just, yeah, just like you and I have reached out, like, a year ago, and getting even you back into the VA and learning the ropes of the VA. There's so many horror stories of the VA, and I've had multiples, but it's still like a system that's learning from their mistakes and growing. And it's just such an overwhelmed system, quite honestly. They didn't know what they didn't know, and they're learning.
Right.
But because it's such an overwhelmed system with this last war coming out, that, the only way to get in there and learn is if we go. So if we don't go and we don't speak up and we avoid, then they're never going to learn and they're never going to do anything different. So my hope is to say that, like, especially us as women, that's my biggest like goal right now, is to get women to start speaking up and doing something different and being that voice that says we got to start speaking up for ourselves and advocating for ourselves. If we don't, then they're never going to change. It's going to stay the same, male dominated system that it's always been. So,
Right. Well, yeah, and I know I have my own issues with it, but it's like I've had my own foot dragging with it too because of just trying to figure out some of those nuances. It's not there's some things that when I look at the paperwork of what I should do and well, actually, when I look at the paperwork that they have versus what I feel like I need to provide, there's a huge disconnect
well, it's not
because
been built for us. It was built
yeah,
for him, and it's a he and she system, but it needs to be built for us. And the only way it's going to be built for us is if we make it built for us. Since that's just it. The system for her has not been for her within the last, maybe they're, the last 10 years they're kind of recognizing that there's females there. But quite honestly, I've been called Mr. 1,000 times, and until they stop calling me Mr., I'm going to keep
right.
showing up and correcting them. So
Well,
it's
and
just, we got to be in their
that's
face and make them change it.
yeah, we need the changes, and that's one of the areas
And
too
if
that
the
I want to get
paperwork's not there, make them develop the paperwork. And if the system's not there, make them develop it. If the women's clinics are not there, then make them, like, the fact that we've been having babies isn't new to the system. How do you think they freaking got the babies? It's just the fact that they, are recognizing PTSD, MSTs, the traumas that have been happening. This is not a new thing, but it's new to the VA. That's
right,
the problem. And I knew in the military, and I had a medical diagnosis. It wasn't that I didn't have the medical diagnosis in the Nexus, it's the fact that I had to challenge it through the VA. And I challenged it with every fiber, every fiber that said that you guys have to change my claim and change the status, which they weren't happy about. But I wasn't going to give up. I
no,
almost didn't give up, to my dismay and my family's, but at the same time, it was either that they won or I did.
better for
And
you to win in this case. It's like I
yeah,
and my experience with the VA is or even just with military, it's like there are some places you didn't want to have to go for treatment, because when I was at Knox, I'd broken I'd fractured my left wrist, and it got worse while I was there. But then when I came back to Oregon, because I was in the Guard, that meant all my treatment got shifted to Madigan.
mm-hmm.
And I hand carried all my medical records from Fort Knox to Madigan. And my second appointment at Madigan, they'd lost them all.
Yeah, they have a tendency to lose things. They did that while I was going through claims was lost a couple of times. But fortunately for them, it wasn't in tech yet, and it was a legacy appeal, and I was really good at keeping records. I still have it sitting here on a big file folder just for my benefit. Even when I'm working with a veteran now, like I'll still pull up my records just to help them through with theirs. But it's more of where you got to really advocate for yourself and keep very good records because of the tendency to lose records.
Yeah.
But advocating for yourself and making sure you're very diligent on your records and keeping track of all records and making sure people are stamping, dating, signing. Every time you speak to somebody, you go to somebody else. That's an exhaustive process. It's an extremely exhaustive process because I went through an appeal for 12 years and I saw 3 Board of Veterans Appeals judges and the Court of Veterans Appeals to make my case known for just mental health. They wanted to exhaust that process, but without making sure that I had done my due diligence on my end, it probably would have gotten dropped, quite honestly. They weren't even willing to take it through with the board. And I mean, a judge wasn't even willing to pick up my, not a judge, I'm sorry, a lawyer was not willing to pick up my case until after the board had already dropped my case or denied my case. So there's a lot of loopholes for a veteran to get their case actually seen or heard before they can actually start getting real help. It's got to be a lot on the veteran, which is really unfortunate. And that part really needs to get changed. But when it comes to making sure that they're doing their due diligence right at the very beginning, I mean, right at the very beginning, especially when you're already going through so much and you're already going through so much medical, I can't stress, like, I really can't stress that enough to just, because you're going to be on medication, or if you're going to be going through so much medical, just to start keeping track and like get a file folder together or box or whatever, and just start shoving stuff in there. And then when you're feeling good, organize it. And then when you're not, throw it in there. Because I can't tell you how many times I'd sit there in a bedroom and have all over the place and then kind of fold it together when I was on a good day or when I was getting close to an appeal. And family was like, oh my God, my husband. Like, but not everybody has one of those, but I happen to. But like, what caregivers actually even go through, God bless them. Like, they don't get paid enough, quite honestly.
No, no, it's like I remember too because I got out in 2000. I was totally out of the system, and I think it was like about 20 years ago now when I actually requested copies of all my records from St. Louis. So I know I've got I get whatever they sent me for my medical records, and I've got whatever they sent me for my personnel records. So I and all of that plus everything else that I kept track of, um, trying to keep copies of whatever I could.
Whatever you
Yeah.
could, which means you don't have everything.
Oh,
Right.
you're never gonna have everything. I mean, if I could have, I would have made a whole copy of all the medical records that I had delivered.
Oh, I did. Like, I'm
But
not kidding you. I have like 2 file folder boxes full of everything from Gate. That was to the VA's dismay, though, that they were hoping I didn't have everything. And every time I left a hospital, which was so many, I took copies of every hospital and every visit. And then when they tried to go through and say that I just went to one hospital, I was like, no, I've had 5 visits since then. And I left that one and here's a record from that one. And they would try to like leave gaps in my records, even the VA has the duty to assist. They didn't assist. They actually would try and leave holes, or they would say I was trying to make a claim for something that wasn't actually a claim that I was making. I was doing something completely different. But I mean, I'm kind of anal that way, and I think some veterans are and some aren't, but should be.
Now, was all of that during service or after service?
After.
Okay.
Like, I left the service, but I took all of my records with me. I had every single medical record that because I had medical coming out the last year. The last year I had a medical. Um, I mean, if you want to know the medical, I can dish it out. I had 23 seizures in 2 days. And then the last few months, or the month following months of that, I had about 100 to 150 seizures within a few months. I was supposed to have a medical within a few weeks. They were supposed to medically discharge me. Instead, they were trying to dishonorably discharge me with that medical. So they held me in for 8 months trying to build a folder, dishonorable discharge, which led to more medical. So the more seizures I started having, because I had something called psychogenic non-epileptic seizures,
Hmm.
which is a bucket of PTSD, anxiety, depression, and it causes your seizures to kind of, because I was really good at being numb. And when you're numb, which I was very good at, you kind of just hold it in, but your body's telling you, girl, you gotta, you gotta show some emotion here. But my body was saying no. I also had epilepsy. So because I had epilepsy, which is controllable by medication. So it's kind of like if you think of having a computer, you have a hard drive and you have a soft drive. Well, my hard drive was controlled by medication. That wasn't the problem. And it shows up on an EEG. So like if you take all the wires and show
Right.
the computer, it's going to show you have epilepsy. But my soft drive is all the psych that people have, like the anxieties and stuff. That's not showing up on an EEG. But my body was not what you can just go have like a therapy session or two. My response to the psych at that time was, so what do I got to do? Do I got to put onions in my lap? I need to get rid of this. Like, I was a medic at the time also, so, and it was right after 9/11. I had just come back to a new base, and I wholeheartedly was very inconvenienced by this situation. So I didn't understand like what, you know, having, I didn't want to be at the new base, quite honestly. I wanted to be back in Japan because I was already stationed in Japan. And um, I, when I got to the new base, I was there only 2 months by the time I started having seizures. The new command was not supportive. Um, I did not get along with them. They were all females, actually. And we had a tendency to, actually, we didn't have just a tendency. We were button heads from gate, and they treated me like I could not shine my shoes, even though I was a medic and a firefighter even before I joined the military. So I had extensive
Right.
medical training and college. But now all of a sudden I wasn't able to like straighten out a uniform or boot shining or whatever. So I was that type of personality that said, "Girl, you don't phase me." But at this inside, I was really phased, and obviously it showed up in my medical. Um, so with that being said, once I started having a medical, they didn't want anything to do with me and proceeded. This is the very short part of it, but proceeded to try and build a folder so that they didn't have to pay for me while I was in the military, and building that folder to try and dishonorably. And then proceeded to take stripes away, and they were withholding my senior stripe, and then they were taking another stripe and then gave me a 16 also on top of that. So with that being said, I was having lots of conditions like my seizures were getting so strong that I ended up having like neck issues and other things. So by the time I actually got exhausted by them and got out, once I went through JAG, then I was able to get out finally in October. But my medical was extensive by then. Once I left, I challenged them for my retirement benefits and took my records and had my general discharge as of 0, because they discharged me with just 0%, to have my retirement benefits challenged outside the military. And I got that approved. I got out in 2002 and got that approved in 2005. So once I went through the DAV to go back to my the Air Force to get it challenged. But I also had extensive seizures afterwards that were extremely excruciating. I got put on like upwards of 16 different meds at one point. The seizures got so bad that, because the neurologist didn't really know how to treat psychogenic non-epileptic seizures at the time, they got so bad they started to dislocate my shoulders. And then once they started dislocating my shoulders, then the first two seizures were, or the first two surgeries were done incorrect. Then I had 2 more surgeries to correct those surgeries. Then I had a 5th surgery to correct that one. And then by 2010, I had my 5th surgery. I'm probably due for a 6th surgery, but I'm just going to hold that off till my arm falls off. But in 2010, I had actually challenged the VA again because I had a high rating. I had 100%, but I had a high rating. But I was like, where's the aid in attendance in this situation? Because I was getting so many surgeries. And they were like, well, you can't go any higher. Well, I was like, well, let's check this out. I think you can, because I was already at a high level. So I started to look at how the ratings broke down. And when I started to break down the ratings and challenge the system, I looked at the mental health, because they had my rating for mental health. And that was actually what was causing my seizures. That's where we really had a conversation. And every VSO in the world kept saying, you can't go any higher, you can't go any higher. And I was like, well, you guys are rating me for epilepsy, and look at the mental health. And they never were discussing PTSD, anxiety, depression, and all those. Yes, I had a rating, but it was very, very low. So when I started doing actual research on what it was actually rated, even though they wouldn't rate them, VA had rated me at adjustment disorder. And when they rated me at adjustment disorder, I was like, I'm not adjusting to shit. Right, quite honestly. I don't know where you guys are getting this part. But they never rated me properly. But the way the VA does, they kind of combine all the mental health ratings all into one like lump sum. I was like, so it's mental health, essentially. Yeah. When I talk to lawyers, they just kind of rate you all the same. So it entailed me getting another rating for mental health and going after an increased rating to change it. I had asked them for aid in attendance, and they denied me in 2003. I could have gone back, essentially, if I really wanted to, but I just wanted them to acknowledge that I was in need of aid. I was in need of aid in attendance because I had so many seizures and so many surgeries. So I went back and challenged them for an increased rating for what had happened with my shoulders, because they never changed those ratings and they never changed the mental health. So I did, and it took 12 years to get that rating changed. And finally, after many, many appeals and going to the Court of Veterans Appeals to acknowledge the mental health rating, because mental health was very, very new then, and there wasn't a lot of ratings going through. I was one of the first brackets in the legacy appeals that kind of came through, because that was where the new technology had kind of switched for the VA. And when I went through at the very beginning, and because I was an SMC rating already, SMC rates had not been actually put through the system yet. So it was kind of like, drop this because you're wearing yourself out medically, or keep it going, don't drop it. But even though they tried to drop me a few times, because there was like a big lull. I'd have a judge just forget my case. Do you want to start over? Those kinds of things. And at one point in time, they said, oh, we lost your transcripts. Do you want to do it all over again? So after I'd even had a judge hear my case, they dropped it. Oh, well, it's no big deal. We don't need your transcripts for the hearing. And I was like, yeah, you do. You absolutely have to have the transcripts. So it was kind of stuff like that, like these huge, big mistakes. And so I just kept like, that was where suicide was really knocking at my door. And because I had put my family by then through so much, and that's where I think it got it got pretty bad. By the time I had lost my service animal by then. I had a service animal when VA wasn't even acknowledging service animals. I had asked my neurologist about it. They said, I don't even know what a service animal does. Like, this is my neurologist. When I got one, it was like 2008. So I was like, let's train a dog, see what it does. I just took her to the VA and people didn't ask too many questions. It was kind of, yeah, I was like in that early stage of what, what dogs do or what people are supposed to do with them, kind of,
Right.
it was just early for mental health. But now I just see so much happening with it. I think it's a freaking fabulous thing. And I just stayed off social media so much that I just kind of just kept my head in the game and kept going. And now I'm like, this rocks, I think it's awesome. But now I'm like, I think it's women. I think women just need to kind of get together. Like, I think we just need to just start getting a voice and start getting teamed up and get
Mhm.
loud, like straight out loud. Because I just came out of this appeal in 2022. And as soon as I got like a hell yes, I don't know, there was something about that closure that said I knew I was right. Like, I knew it. Like, I knew I had done something right. I knew that appeal is going to open the doors for other women who are coming through, who it's 100%, it's a big freaking deal. And if they come through with courts behind mine, especially in the SMC rates, it's a big freaking deal. And it's the validation that says that we're not crazy. We're not, we are not needing to be heard. And when they sit there and tell us that, it's an emotional thing, it's a hormone thing, I was in my 20s for freaking out loud. Like, it wasn't, you know, I had so many neurologists and people that, like, in their field, they're supposed to be really good, that just kept telling me that I need to go do something with, like, they would tell me stuff about not ever having a child, or if my child was going to be messed up, that he was going to have problems. And there's just so much, like, yeah, there's just so much that needs to be said.
Well,
Obviously,
so, I mean,
but
everything you're talking about as you're going through that, and I'm thinking about the boxes, it's like you're already taking steps to start busting some of these boxes that we need to make them go away.
mhm,
But
like,
we
just keep
also
talking
need to
about it.
make sure that there's other women who know that even though they feel stuck, because if you felt stuck, they're feeling stuck. It's like, let them know that give them that awareness. That's the way
It's
I put it,
okay.
is the
It's okay.
awareness. It's not that they know, because we can know all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
but we
it's
don't do
all about
anything.
awareness.
It's the awareness. And once they've got that awareness ignited,
It's a fire.
that yeah,
It
you
is.
don't have
It straight
fear
out
anymore.
is.
And now you start seeing where all the connections are that can help raise raise us out of these stupid boxes and to move forward to be the authentic people that we were meant to be,
Hmm.
not something stuck in a box and just kind
You're
of
not angry. Like, I was so freaking angry all the time. Like, I was freaking firecracker, right? But you're angry because you're trying to tell people what you're feeling or what you're trying to get across. And there's this, like, and that came from like childhood, and you just need somebody to freaking listen to you. And
mhm,
then once you just like, look, I don't need to waste my time with you, I'll just go find somebody else. Like, all of a sudden it becomes this like weird calm instead. Like, no, you're not smart enough. I get it. Just move on to somebody else. Like, it's
next.
just like, I'm not even wasting my energy. Why am I even mad with you? You're just not smart enough. I get it. I can't communicate with you. And then just change the game to somebody else. And then you find somebody smart enough to communicate. Like, oh, okay, you're emotionally intelligent enough. I'll waste my time with you.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
it's an eerie calm that I don't know how to explain it. There's a lot of good people on LinkedIn though. I found my people. I don't know why I didn't reach out to LinkedIn a long time ago, but there's some good peeps.
I think it's because it has changed a lot just in
It
the
has.
last few years. 'cause when
Yeah.
I first got
Last
into it
couple years.
yeah, when I first got in, like, 2006, 2007, 2006, all I was told is
It's
you
business.
have to niche. It's only business, it's not Facebook. You don't see those so much anymore, and you have to you have to be 1 or 2 things at the most. That's all you're allowed to talk about to build your authority in that one minute subject. And I couldn't do it because I'm being stuck in a box, and all my life, I can't deal with boxes.
Mhm.
So, I was like, I had it, but I didn't really do anything with it, connected to some people over time, but then going into 2022, that's and I mean, lots of changes at that point, but going into that year, it was when I started seeing some of the women I started seeing, there was, I think it was Leah Turner in England who she's got tattoos, and she was openly,
Oh, yeah, I know she's
"So I
yeah.
got tattoos, big deal. It doesn't change how I can
Mhm.
think and how I
What are you
can."
talking about? I freaking got a butterfly. Yep.
Yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
got that when I got married, yeah.
Leah's got them
Oh,
everywhere,
she got tattoos
and
everywhere, yeah. I
and
know
then
she is.
once at that same time when I started, there's a gal at Nike, um, I wanna say Sammy, I can't remember her name. She was talking about all the creepy DMs on LinkedIn at the first place and
Mm.
is exposing that stuff. So it's like talking about things that
Yeah, putting them on blast.
some people will say it's
Doing
not
it classy.
business, but it is business.
Mhm.
Mental health, it is business because it's who we are.
Mhm.
Now that it's like, yeah, I got ADHD. At least now that I know that I can start taking the steps to fix things instead of what? Instead of sitting there and kind of wondering, why do I keep chasing squirrels? Why does this stuff feel so difficult? Once we get these answers, this is all part of business. Once you get the answers, then you can basically shift how you approach it, and things start falling into place easier instead of the struggle that it used to be. That's what we need to do with the VA stuff too. We need to turn it into something that starts dropping into place instead of being that big struggle.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's got its glitches, but at the same time, I mean, there's no system that doesn't. But at the same time, like it's it's trying, like it's really trying. I've seen a lot of changes, and the only way they're going to be able to fix any of it, like, I mean, they are shifting all the stuff where they weren't even doing anything with homeless programs to like really trying to make differences with homelessness and stuff. So I mean, they can only do what they can do, and if you're not showing up and they're not going back in, they're not getting in, and then it can't, it's there's no budget for it. Like, you have to be there to make a budget. So
Oh, yeah.
where you gotta, even though it's difficult, it's everything that's good is going to be difficult. Like, I don't know of anything that's not been good in my life that's not been difficult at some point. So,
And I totally understand the budget because I remember, especially with the military,
they're
you
only going to
didn't
budget
get
for the heads.
kudos for
You got
saving
to be,
money.
yeah.
There's no kudos to save money,
No, even if anything,
because if you
if any
do,
hospital, you got to use all the supplies at the end of the year to get supplies next year, right?
right, if you save something, then they figure that, "Oh, that's all you need," but if next year something happens and you need more and you get your budget cut, then how do you perform your mission? It's the same with the combat arms. It's like, take a cavalry troop, and you had to make sure that you've spent the money, you put in the training, the fuel, the all that stuff to make sure that you've spent to what you've been allotted so that you will get it again next year.
Right. Like,
Because
I hate hearing veterans say that they're like saving it for somebody else. Like, they're like doing this like coat of armor thing where they're going to make sure their spot is saved. Like the government doesn't do it like that. Like it doesn't,
No.
not saving any, but what you're going to do is you're going to wait until you're actually in need. Then you're going to try and go get into a system that's already backlogged anyways. And then you're going to try and get in, and then you're going to be so much in pain or so hurt and need the system that you're going to get exactly where you're, so delayed that you're going to be frustrated by it and then not understand why it's not moving faster. And it's because you waited to something that happened, however many years ago, instead of just going in and just say, okay, let's work while I'm not as bad right now.
Right. Work it
Essentially,
work it when you're more
you're
able-bodied
easier
to
and
do it.
calmer. Your body's not, yeah, it's good to go, essentially. But you can still take your medical records in at any point and get enrolled when you're not in need and not urgent.
Yeah, and that's where I'm at. I think I'm just gonna take the form they have, add a
I
bunch of
wish you
documents
would.
that
I've been
don't
working on you for a
the
year.
doc well,
Damn,
it's
I'm gonna
because
get in there in Friday, and I'm gonna sit there and take you in by your hand, walk you through. Tell my
well,
husband I'm gonna have to stay an extra day because I'm like escorting her to the VA.
I think what it's really gonna come down to is taking the document they have because I can't really sign it the way it is
All right,
because
make them walk you through it. That's their
because they
job.
don't have anything to provide for name changes and other things. It's just
Yeah, yeah, they do. They have a whole program now. I'm telling you, they do. You haven't gone to go see that they have made a bunch of changes. A bunch.
okay.
And
Yeah, I just
they
have
do.
the one document that's like, this is what you're supposed to fill out to go
Yeah,
into
it may
the
not
system.
be like on va.gov, but they do have people and advocates now that are assisting. And you just have to find one like in your local VA. Like get a hold of your VA and say, who is your advocate for such and such? And that can walk me through such and such. But if you're not, if you as the veteran are not going to advocate for yourself, nobody's going to reach out to you. And that's what I highly, highly tell everybody is you have to do that research and you have to advocate for yourself and say, this is what I need. Who is going to do it for me?
Well, and we talked about a little bit of that
Mm-hmm.
even in my stuff at the beginning because I was always told that I basically didn't have any benefits
Right. That's
because
that's
I was
was their
National
MO.
Guard
Right.
and I didn't retire. So,
No, you don't have to retire.
well,
I'm
yeah,
not
but I
retired.
mean, the way it comes across is if you're not retired and if you're in the, especially if you're in the National Guard, there's kind of a feeling of not being worth it when it comes to the VA because all I would hear is you don't have benefits. The only benefit that I ever found that I got somebody to say that I really had was a VA benefit for a home loan.
Well, they're not going to give you a home loan unless you have benefits.
But I think even the things that I got from
Here's
them,
my theory. Here's
I
my
have to go
theory.
dig through
Did
some
you
stuff.
sign on a dotted line that says I'm going to give my life away if there is a need?
We all did.
Okay. So, were you enrolled for more than 90 days?
I had 14 years.
Okay. So, if you signed on that dotted line and you were enrolled for more than 90 days, my suggestion to you is to go to the VA and stop listening to rumors. The rumor mill is thick, very,
Yeah,
very
I
thick.
don't doubt it.
And if you're willing to listen to rumors, then you will not ever, ever do it. But rumors, they're like bleep, and everybody has one.
Yep.
Unless you get the information yourself because you've done your homework, then don't believe them.
Yeah, it's going on my list. And the minute that I tell CJ it's on the list, it will be done.
Oh, will it? because I've been working on you for a while.
It's
But
I know.
I've now made the list. Is that what you're saying?
No, 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 no. This is all stuff that I'm just starting with her on that list.
Oh, okay.
But this is the thing about working with CJ too. It's like
Can I just tell you, my husband loves a good list.
I've
Like lives by a list.
oh shit, I make lists all the time,
Hmm.
and then I just don't know where I put them.
No, he has a one good one. If it gets to your phone, then you're really screwed because you'll never get rid of it. But
Yeah,
a
so
list
it's like
just lives vicariously through it. And now he's gone to his watch and says, "Siri, can you put on my list?" Dot, dot, dot.
well, see the other thing too is, especially with ADHD, it's like lists can be a problem as well as a
Mm-hmm.
help.
That's exactly what it is. So I was like, you never get anything off your list, do you? No, he just keeps adding. And
No, it
then
just keeps
it's
going
like
on
what's
and
on the
on.
top of the list versus the bottom of the list and da-da.
Oh, well, yeah, but it doesn't matter because it's like I can go, oh wait, this thing in the middle looks like maybe it should be more important, so
Priority.
I'll do that, or this will be more fun than that one that's a little higher up.
See?
Let's
Oh,
do
he's
that.
here. He just chimed in. I love a good list. See?
Oh yeah, he's chimed in a couple of times.
Told you. Something about a list. Keeps a man sane.
But yeah, it's
Oh,
gonna
here comes
be
Crystal. My list never ends. Yeah, some people just love a list. I actually do post-its and then they just are all over the place and then they're just there. And if I feel like it's something I need to execute, then I'll grab a post-it off of something. But then my post-its are never ending and they're just kind of a hot mess. But
yeah.
if
Let's
I
see.
see the post-it, I can grab it and do
I
something
think
about it.
CJ said she has 3 or 4 calendars, and she's paper calendar. So it's like she
Oh,
has
I
it
have one
right
sitting
there,
here on my
and
desk, but
if it's
from
not on the
last year.
calendar, it ain't it's not on the list.
Well, but why do you have so many calendars? Like in their different areas?
I'm she's get numbers. She probably said, but I never quite picked it up because my brain was probably going on 3 or 4 other tracks at the same time.
See, my main go-to is just Google Calendar. Like if it's there
Yeah,
and it's actually made it to like keep me organized, that's like my main go-to.
that's the
But if I feel
appointments.
like I have to have like a list to do the dishes or something, like then I'm just trying to exhaust myself and it'll get done like eventually. It's not
Exactly.
and it's important. My calendar of like show ups and say I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. That's the only thing I need to execute. Outside of that, I was like tedious stuff, getting stuff done. I was like, it'll get done eventually, if it ever. I'm not
Yeah,
trying to exhaust myself with that.
can't afford it.
That's when I realized like a while ago I had to like save my energy and then account for down days and whatever's and cancel if I have to cancel. That was like that was the learning process of being sick so much. Just forgive yourself, and if people don't forgive it, then they're not my people. And that list came small. Like it came really small. Like I was like, you're 5 people of who you would call if you were in the emergency room, and if they don't answer, then you're like, not my people. Ta ta.
Yeah, I've had that. Let's see. Now I have the people that I can call if I go to the emergency room.
Mm-hmm.
When I did go to the emergency room, I didn't have the people, but
Yep.
that's how it goes.
That's when you kind of just really screen your energy, screen your time, screen your list. My list is not a actual important list.
Yeah, it's been its own wild ride, and actually, I want to figure out ways to be more involved with the VA as well and with vets
Mm-hmm.
because that's what I want to do is again, just like you, the focus is on the women and moving beyond where everybody else is sticking us.
Yeah. Well, that's what. Yeah, like this last year has been my like learning. to like get the voice, to get more confident with telling the story and not being so like behind the scenes. I didn't even realize what I was actually trying to say at first. At first, I was like just trying to, yeah, because I was just so, I was kind of had this armor of so anti social media actually, because I was kind of like proud about the fact that I was like, you can't Google me. And then I was realizing I was like, oh, how am I supposed to tell anybody anything?
Yeah,
That's
that's the
not
damn
going to
thing.
happen. Right.
If you can't
Like,
Google you, that means you're invisible.
well, yeah, you can't, nobody can find you. But then at the same time, a lot of veterans that are like really stuck and were really under the ground were all this, they were all the same. And they're like not willing to open an email or not willing. I was like, ooh, I was that one. Like this shield of armor, right? And that's
Yeah.
kind of where I was realizing I got to get out of that. Like, out of the, I can't, won't, don't phase and change that narrative. But at the same time, it was easier said than done because I was really embarrassed about getting on camera and all the stuff I had told myself for so long. It was just, yeah, that's kind of the stuff I had to start practicing. I was opening a Facebook and then I was, yeah, I started in like the Tony Robbins world or whatever. And then I was like, what the heck? You wanted me to bounce around and shout and what, yay. Yeah. I felt like such an idiot, but I was like, I really had to get out of my own way. Yeah, I was, yeah. Then I realized I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Now what's next? And then once I started realizing it was all about my words and what I kept saying, I can't, don't, won't, shouldn't, da 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 da. It was all about language. And then I got to start practicing the language and how I'm speaking to myself and what I'm speaking to the universe. And then it started to change. It was
Exactly.
that first year of like really practicing and putting it into action. Yeah,
Well, and that language is so important
it's
on
powerful. It's
whatever
very
you're telling
powerful.
yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I hear it from others. You just you hear what they say, and the interesting part is when you hear somebody who says either what you do say or what you did say, and now you can look at them and go, "I don't wanna be that way.
Yep.
That's
Well,
not gonna
it
get me where I wanna
you
go."
internalize all the words you're saying. You internalize all those. When you're internalizing them, then that's gonna go back to others, right? And like, if your whole goal is to help change some things, then what are you wanting to change? Like,
Yeah.
to really start asking yourself if you're wanting to make a difference or you're gonna stay the same.
Well,
When you
and
start like, when I even started realizing like all my anxiety was all my forward thinking and everything was wanting to like change about the forward stuff. And I was like, but you can only control what you have going on right this minute. You can't
right.
control nothing about the future. All of a sudden, that was that awareness part that I was like, what am I trying to fix that I can't have anything to do with? I can get sick tomorrow. I can be gone tomorrow. I can, like, there's nothing about the future that I'm having all this anxiety about because
Yep.
just because I've been sick, it doesn't mean I'm going to be or whatever. I had no control over it. And then when I realized all my depression was all the stuff that I was like trying to think about because stuff had already happened, I can't change it. But I
Right.
was just living in it and I was like staying in it. It was like something just, I wanted to just be in the depression for
Oh,
months, right? And but I was like, it's already happened. What you gonna do about it now?
I know so many of us is can't give up whatever it was in the past that
No, but see, that's just it. They can give it up. They don't want to. And then once you realize you are victimizing yourself, like
no, they
once
want
you
some of
realize you
them
just got
want
to
that.
put that, yeah, but what's
Unfortunately,
your
some of them
choice?
want that victim choice.
Right. But once you told me, like, once I really realized that I was like doing that and you told me, I didn't know that's what I was doing. But once you told me I was being the victim, that's what changed my game. I didn't recognize that that's what I was doing. But if you actually told me that I was being a victim, that's where I was like, what the hell? No,
Right.
I don't play the victim. And those words, once you told me, or like once I recognized it, that's what like really set my ass on fire, because I don't like that word. Because I've
No,
had so much stuff happen to me, but I was like, as soon as I recognized that that's what I was actually doing, then that's what like lit my butt on fire and said, knock it off. Like,
see,
you got to
that's the
stop it.
awareness.
Right.
That
So
and
that's
that's
what I'm
why
saying.
when I talk
You
about
didn't
aware,
know that that's what was happening to your body because it's a chemical imbalance, right?
right?
But then I was like, okay, so this is what you're going to do. And this is all you got. You get 2 days. You get only 2 days to be in the bed. And after the second day, if you haven't gotten up and washed your ass and gotten in the shower, you're going to take a cold shower, and that's it. Your girl does not get a week or 2 or 3 or whatever to get this like thing. I realize you are going to be sick. You're going to have your migraines. You are going to have a migraine in the shower, whether or not you're going to have the shower or not, or have some food or not, or whatever. But you are only allowed 2 days, and that's it, max. So from now on, if I'm having those days, I like seizures or not, I can give myself all the reasons and the plethora, whatever, but I'm only allowed 2 days. That's it.
Yep.
And then that's it. That's changed my game completely forever, and it will never go back.
And but what I love about it too is that realization is the way I count, the way I talk about ignite. I I used to
Mm-hmm.
say spark awareness,
It's, yeah, it's,
but
everybody has their,
a
it's,
spark is a never guarantee.
sometimes it is, though. You're just putting your feet out the bed and just falling.
But I mean, that's that spark.
Yeah.
The spark is just that. It's a spark, and it can disappear as quick as it was created. It may not. Nothing may catch fire from it, but if you ignite, there's no choice. It's like it's lit, it's off, and that's the way awareness. When you get that awareness and it is ignited, just what you said, then you know, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm done with it. Let's start moving beyond this box and be whatever's next. Don't let the past turn into the future.
Mm-hmm.
You said it too in terms of that.
It's
Um,
just about living like today is a gift, and like really recognizing that that's all you have. You only have today to be promised. And if you don't
yep,
really start appreciating it,
you
like
appreciate today because
you think you have
when
forever, and that's just not the case.
when you let that when you're stuck in the past, your subconscious just thinks that's what the future's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about subconscious earlier, and it's that same thing. And it's like I know what that's like too. It's not fun.
No.
Unfortunately, when you're in the middle of it, sometimes you don't realize you're in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I can see we're getting close to the end of the hour, and it's actually been a lot here because this is not the easiest of topics,
No.
especially when there's
It's
so
always a
many,
good time. The
especially when there's so
VA.
many who still need to know more about it. But it would be I'd love for you to kind of any kind of last minute golden nuggets that you might want to put out there, and then to just
No, mainly,
how people can reach you and
I
keep
mean,
in touch with
everybody
you.
can always reach me on LinkedIn. That's where my home is. I have Instagram too, but it's not as active as LinkedIn is. Mainly, I'm really hell bent on, I mean, veterans in general, but women especially, to like help build and get their voice heard, and anything that they need as far as like the VA that I can help with, if it's helping with getting them in the right connection. I don't do claims. I'm familiar with them. I understand them just from my own experience, but I don't do them.
No,
So getting involved with a VSO as soon as possible to get through the claims process, highly recommend Susanna Dawn. And just if you're not even in the system, by all means, just get online. You can do it now online when I couldn't do that before, but you can now. Just get on va.gov and start getting enrolled and getting in. Other than that, there's like so many of us advocates out there that are like thriving and able to be reached out, and especially us as mentors that are like pushing for just a better life and whole life and wellness. It's a thing now. It just used to be not even discussed as like living your best life, but I just so recommend it.
I will put it
Like
on
I
my
just
calendar for next week
there
because
you go. It's
I
made
have to
the
finish
list.
this.
It's
I have to
official.
finish things with this anthology this weekend. So this week, but like I still got some chapters, second edits that I need to get back to and get them caught up because everybody's supposed to have their chapters done by Friday night. Everything's done, and then my weekend will be putting a book
Open.
together.
Making it happen, making it happen.
It's I'm getting used to it. This is my third
The
one
next one we need
doing
to do
this.
is a veterans book, a woman
It's
veterans book, a
it's
woman's
already in
perspective.
my mind, and quite frankly, we could start that anytime.
I have no idea what to do and how to start that, so I will be your girl, but writing one.
We
I can't make any
no
promises.
no no. You've
But yeah,
CJ and
we
I
could definitely,
through CJ
definitely
and
need to do
I
one.
and Level Up, and it is very easy for the two of
Well,
us.
there's lots of women I can bring on here. That'd
Um,
be awesome.
because we have a couple of different options too. We actually have a couple of different military
Mm-hmm.
foci on military. So yeah, there's a lot to happen.
Yeah, I
But
think that'd be
I
cool.
will I will let everybody else go with the end of the show, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute.
Okay, solid.
All right. So thanks everybody for being here. I look forward to next week because I believe next week Chasen will be on with me. So
Oh, I love him. He's so awesome.
it's gonna be another fun conversation. And with that, have a wonderful rest of May.
Alrighty.
Only 2 days left.
It's going
Bye.
by so fast. Bye. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.